Good day, children. Today we move on to the next poem from Unit 9 titled The Tale of Custard the Dragon from the textbook First Flight. The poem The Tale of Custard the Dragon was written by Frederick Ogden Nash. Frederick Ogden Nash was an American poet who was famous for his light verse. He was known as a producer of humorous poetry. He received Sarah Joseph Hale Award in 1964. Now, the speciality about this poem is that it is written in the style of a ballad. A ballad is a song or poem that tells a story. So I'm sure you are all familiar with ballads, which narrate stories of courage, heroism. But this poem is a humorous ballad, which is almost similar to a parody. So let's read the poem. Belinda lived in a little white house with a little black kitten and a little grey mouse and a little yellow dog and a little red wagon and a really or truly a little pet dragon. Now look at the first stanza. The poet is introducing us to a little girl named Belinda who lived in a little white house. Now she lived with some creatures who were her pets. Now who were they? They were the black kitten, a grey mouse, a yellow dog, a little red wagon, and a creature which the poet says was really and truly a dragon. Wagon, I hope you know that it is a vehicle used to transport goods or for any other purpose. That's a wagon. Okay, and so these are the things with which Belinda lived. Okay, now the name of the little black kitten was Ink, and the little grey mouse she called him Blink. And the little yellow dog was sharp as mustard, but the dragon was a coward and she called him Custard. Now here I hope you know that mustard refers to the a yellow colored flower, okay, and coward means weakling. So the poet is explaining the names of all these animals which are tamed by Belinda. So he says that the name of the black kitten is Ink and the name of the grey mouse is Blink. The little yellow dog had yellow color and therefore she called him Mustard. And since the dragon was a coward, which means a weakling, she called him Custard. Custard the dragon had big sharp teeth and spikes on top of him and scales underneath, mouth like a fireplace, chimney for a nose, and really or truly daggers on his toes. So in this stanza, spikes means it is a thin pointed surface. Okay, and scales, I'm sure you are all familiar with scales, those thin bony plates which protects the skin of fish and reptiles if you have seen. Then underneath, something below. Fireplace, I'm sure you're all familiar with what a fireplace is. It's an outdoor structure of brick, stone or metal to open a fire. Dagger means a sharp knife. Okay, so in this stanza, the poet is describing the dragon which had big sharp teeth, spikes on top, and on the lower part of it, it had scales which protected its skin. His mouth is compared to a fireplace because it is assumed that dragons can release fire from the mouth, and even his nose is compared to a chimney which is used to pass out smoke. So I'm sure if you have watched cartoons or even certain animated movies, you would have seen how a dragon is portrayed, with fire emitting from its mouth and smoke coming out of its nose. And his feet is described like a sharp knife, which is a dagger. Okay, Belinda was as brave as a barrel full of bears, and Ink and Blink chased lions down the stairs. Mustard was as brave as a tiger in a rage, but Custard cried for a nice safe cage. So here, barrel means drum, chased is to hunt or follow, rage, anger. Okay, so now the poet explains the inner strength or the bravery of all these various characters. He says that Belinda was as brave as a group of bears, and Ink and Blink was so brave that they could even hunt lions. So here the poet is showing us the bravery of the kitten and the little mouse that could even hunt a lion. And the dog was very brave, just like an angry tiger. But compared or when you contrast with all of them was the dragon Custard. Now Custard was not as brave because he was afraid of everything, and all that he always asked for was a safe cage. Okay. Belinda tickled him, she tickled him unmerciful. Ink, Blink and Mustard, they rudely called him Percival. They all sat laughing in the little red wagon at the really or truly or cowardly dragon. Now here, tickled means stroke. Okay, here it means to tease. And unmerciful, very cruel. Percival, now Percival is a reference to a knight who belonged in King Arthur's court. Okay, so he is it's from the tale. It's believed that one of the bravest knight in King Arthur's court was named as Percival. Belinda, now in this stanza, Belinda is stroking the dragon in a very cruel manner, we can say, because she's teasing him very unmercifully. And Ink and Blink and Mustard, they made fun of him by comparing him to the brave knight Percival. Percival was thought to be very brave, but he ran away due to lack of courage. He was thought to be a brave knight in King Arthur's court, but at the time of a crucial time, he ran away because he lacked courage. So they, Ink, Blink and Mustard teased Custard, as referring him to Percival, and they used to tease the dragon while sitting in their little red wagon. They were all sitting in the little red wagon and teasing Custard. Belinda giggled till she shook the house, and Blink said weak, which is giggling for a mouse. Ink and Mustard rudely asked his age when Custard cried for a nice safe cage. Giggled, to laugh. Weak, it is a sound made by a mouse. Now here the poet is saying that Belinda used to laugh so loudly that her voice echoed in the house. Blink the mouse used to laugh and make a sound of weak, and on the other hand, Ink and Mustard would tease Custard by asking his age whenever he used to ask for a nice safe cage. Suddenly they heard a nasty sound, and Mustard growled, and they all looked around. Meouch, cried Ink, and ooh, cried Belinda, for there was a pirate climbing in the window. So here, if you see, nasty means bad or unpleasant. Growled, bark. Okay, bark of a dog. Pirate, you know who a pirate is, somebody who robs a ship in sea. Window is basically referring to window. Okay, it is referring to window just to have the proper rhyme scheme correct. That is why the poet has used window instead of window. Okay, window means window here. So while all of them were making fun of the dragon, they suddenly heard someone entering the house. So when they looked towards the window, they saw a pirate climbing up the wall, and the dog barked at him. The kitten meowed to him. Belinda cried ooh, because all of them were scared of the pirate, because he's somebody who robs ships. Pistol in his left hand, pistol in his right, and he held in his teeth a cutlass bright. His beard was black, one leg was wood. It was clear that the pirate meant no good. So pistol, a handgun. Cutlass is a short sword with a curved blade, usually seen on a pirate. If you look at the image of a pirate, that's usually seen with a pirate. So the poet is describing the appearance of the pirate, and he says that the pirate was holding handguns in both his hands and had a little sword too, and he was holding his sword with his teeth. He had a black beard and his one leg was made of wood. So which means that though the pirate was a disabled person, he was still frightening he had a frightening appearance and frightened the other characters. Moreover, he intended to harm them. Belinda paled and she cried, help, help, but Mustard fled with a terrified yelp. Ink trickled down to the bottom of the household, and little mouse Blink strategically mousehold. So paled means turn yellow due to fear. Yelp, it is a short, sharp cry. Trickled here refers to run. Strategically planned. Okay. And mousehold is the hole where mouse lives. So when all of them saw the pirate, they all got scared. And Belinda was so frightened that she turned yellow due to fear and started crying for help. Mustard the dog started crying for help too. And the kitten Ink ran towards the bottom of the house as if he had already planned for it. And the mouse Ink ran into his little mouse hole in order to save himself. But up jumped Custard, snorting like an engine, clashed his tail like irons in a dungeon. With a clatter and a clank and a jangling squirm, he went at the pirate like a robin at a worm. So, snorting here means a sudden explosive sound made through one's nose. Okay, and clashed means fight or fought. Dungeon means an underground prison. Clatter, clank is the sound of a hard object which falls on each other, like when two pots or pans falls on each other, And jangling squirm means it is the sound of, again, a hard object falling on another object. Robin is a bird. So when all the other characters that were earlier defined as very brave, they all got so scared, and the dragon did the most unexpected thing, because he was always lying around crying for a safe cage. Now, in such a situation, when the pirate was there to attack them, the dragon jumped onto the pirate and made such a strong sound with his nose. It was as if an engine was producing that sound. And not just that, he hit his tail on the ground with great force that it produced a heavy sound of metal being, rubbed against each other in an underground prison. And he attacked the pirate just like how a robin bird would attack its prey, which is the worm. Okay, the pirate gaped at Belinda's dragon and gulped some grog from his pocket flagon. He fired 2 bullets, but they didn't hit, and Custard gobbled him every bit. So gaped means to stare with your mouth wide open. Gulped means swallow. Grog is a drink. Okay, flagon is a container which is made of silver in which a drink is stored. And gobbled means to swallow hurriedly. So here the pirate got so shocked by the dragon's reaction that he opened his mouth wide with shock. And to gather some strength, he drank some alcohol from a container in his pocket. And after gathering some courage, he fired 2 bullets on the dragon, but he missed it. And Custard the dragon ate every bit of this fierce looking pirate. Okay, so Custard just swallowed the pirate quite hurriedly. Okay, Belinda embraced him, Mustard licked him. No one mourned for his pirate victim. Ink and Blink in glee did gyre around the dragon that ate the pirate. So embraced means to hug. Mourned means to feel sorry for someone's death. Victim is somebody who is suffering, the sufferer. Glee is delight, and gyre means danced. So here, when the pirate was dead, Belinda hugged the dragon and Mustard licked him. No one was sad because of the death of the pirate, whereas they were all happy. And Ink and Blink both were running around the dragon in happiness. So here the poet is saying that, all these characters were very happy and they were showing their gratitude towards the dragon because he had saved them. But presently up spoke little dog Mustard. I would have been twice as brave if I had been flustered. And up spoke Ink and up spoke Blink. We would have been 3 times as brave, we think. And Custard said, I quite agree that everybody is braver than me. Flustered means upset or confused. So after they thanked and showed their love towards the dragon, these animals changed their mind. They were reminded of how they used to make fun of, the dragon as a coward, and now they are all praising him. So, suddenly the dog said that, it was just because of some confusion that, he wasn't able to do anything. Otherwise, he would have been, twice as brave as Custard. And Ink and Blink also said that, they would have been 3 times braver than Custard. To all this, Custard, the dragon, said that he completely agrees with all of them who are more powerful and braver than him. Belinda still lives in her little white house with her little black kitten and her little grey mouse and her little yellow dog and her little red wagon and her really or truly a little pet dragon. Belinda is as brave as a barrel full of bears, and Ink and Blink chase lions down the stairs. Mustard is as brave as a tiger in a rage, but Custard keeps crying for a nice safe cage. So finally the poet uses the same lines he used in the first stanza. He uses the same lines to show that, after this terrific episode in which the dragon was the true hero or the real hero, whereas all the other animals, they had undermined him, saying that they were more powerful than him and could have handled the situation in a much better way. The poet is saying that, the life started again in the same manner. Belinda is still living in that little white house with Ink, Blink, Mustard and Custard, and they are all very brave, whereas the dragon is still a coward who always wants to stay safe in his cage. Okay, I hope you all understood the poem. So the various poetic devices used in the poem are: in the first stanza you have repetition, which is the word little is repeated in the first stanza in lines 1, line 2 and line 3. Then repetition comes in the third stanza, the last line, and Relio Trulio daggers on his toes is repeated in stanza. It comes in stanza 1, then it comes in stanza 3, then stanza 5, and stanza 14. Also it is repeated. Then there is repetition is used in stanza 6. There is when Custard cries for a nice safe cage. Okay. Then repetition comes in the last two stanza. It is a repetition of the first two stanza. Okay. The second poetic device used is anaphora. Anaphora is used in stanza 1 and is repeated. The lines 3 and 4 begins with and a. Stanza 1, anaphora. Then stanza 2, lines 2 and 3, and the little is again anaphora. Then comes oxymoron. Oxymoron is when you use two words with opposite meanings. So in stanza 1, last line, pet dragon is an oxymoron, because you don't usually keep dragons as pets, isn't it? So it is an oxymoron here, pet dragon. Then comes simile. In stanza 2, you have simile where the little yellow dog is compared to a mustard. Okay. Then in stanza 3, mouth like a fireplace again is a simile there. The mouth of the dragon is compared to a fireplace. So that's simile. Then stanza 4, the first line, Belinda was as brave as a barrel full of bears, is simile showing the strength of Belinda. The third line, Mustard was as brave as a tiger in a rage. So comparing Mustard's braveness to an angry tiger is again simile. Then stanza 10, snorting like an engine is a simile. Clashed his tail like irons in a dungeon is simile. Like a robin at a worm is also simile. Okay, so these are the examples of simile. Then you have metaphor, which is stanza 3, line 3, chimney for a nose, comparing the nose of the dragon to a chimney. So that is metaphor. So that is an example of metaphor. Then you have assonance. Assonance is a use of the vowel sound. So as brave as a barrel. So that whole line can be, you can see it as assonance. Okay. Then you have assonance in stanza 12. No one moaned. O sound is repeated. Then ink and blink. E, the I sound is repeated. Ate the pirate. A sound is repeated. Okay. Then you have allusion, which is when you're comparing to a fantasy character or a mythological character or a place, you call it as an allusion. So here Percival is an allusion used. Percival was a knight in the King Arthur's army. Okay, so Percival is an allusion. That's in stanza 5. Then you have personification in the same line, stanza 5, line 2. Ink, Blink and Mustard, they rudely called him Percival. So Ink, Blink and Mustard are given human qualities. They are animals, isn't it? They are given human qualities. So it's personification there. Then in stanza 6, you have onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is the use of various sounds. So in stanza 6, you have giggled, weak. These are examples of onomatopoeia. Then stanza 7, growled, meowch, ooh. Then in stanza 9, yelp is also onomatopoeia. Then stanza 10, clatter, clank, jangling is an example of onomatopoeia. Then comes consonants, that is the repetition of the consonant sounds. In stanza 7, first line, suddenly, suddenly, the s sound is repeated, that is for consonants. Then we have alliteration. Alliteration is used in stanza 8, he held, line 2, he held, her sound or the h sound is repeated. Beard was black, the b sound, b sound is repeated. Then you have 11th stanza, gulped some grog, g sound, g sound is repeated. 12th stanza, glee did gyre, g sound, g sound is repeated. Then you have transferred epithet, which is you transfer a quality to another thing, of one quality to another thing. That is in stanza 9, second line, terrified yelp. Terrified yelp is a transferred epithet. That is, dog being terrified is that emotion is transferred to its yelp or the sound it makes. So transferred epithet is terrified yelp. Okay, then you have various imageries used in the poem. Mouth like a fireplace, chimney for a nose, brave as a barrel full of bears, brave as a tiger in a rage, went to the pirate like a robin at a worm. These are all imagery used. Okay, then the way the pirate is described in stanza 8 is actually imagery. Okay, so the poet has used a lot of imagery here. The rhyme scheme of the poem is A, B, B. Okay, so I hope you have understood the poem. Thank you, children.